40% of these middle income households now are saying they think their retirement will be better than the one that they envisioned.
Welcome to Retirement Revealed. I'm your host, Jeremy Keil, and we're here to turn your retirement savings into retirement income. Today, we're talking with Jean Chatzky about real-life retirement journeys. Jean, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. I've been a fan reading your books, seeing your news articles. So I've got a feeling some of our audience knows a bit about you, but for those that don't, tell me a little bit about who you are, and especially how did you get into finance?
Oh boy, it's a long-ish story, but I'll tell you the short-ish version. I am a longtime financial journalist. I started in financial magazines, worked at Forbes, worked at Money, worked at Smart Money, ended up on the Today Show for about 25 years as their financial editor and have done a considerable amount of TV since then. And that led to writing books, giving talks. And today I run a small company called Her Money, where we focus on financial wellness and creating financial content primarily for women.
Yeah, that's. I think that's where you're spending most of your time. You were part of a survey really looking at retirement. So we're going to talk about retirement for a bit, but give me some insight. Why Her Money? Why do we need to have a website or something focused on specifically kind of female money thoughts?
Well, as you know, women face very different financial challenges than men face. It's not just that the pay gap has been really sticky and really stubborn. In fact, recently we saw the number of cents that a woman earns compared to a white man decrease for the first time in a couple of years, which was just, it's only a penny, but it's a big penny.
Wrong direction.
In that case, yes, wrong direction. But it's more than that. It's the fact that women are still the ones who take breaks from the workforce to care for kids and care for older parents. And as a result, when we get to retirement, we have smaller balances in our retirement accounts. We also have fewer Social Security credits. And then we outlive our male spouses and partners by a good 5-6 years, which means we have to take that smaller pool of resources and make it last a longer period of time. So the challenge is very tough, but that wasn't the only reason that I started Her Money. As I said, I do a lot of public speaking, and I've been in rooms with only women, and I've been in rooms that are mixed, that have women and men. And when it's only women in the room, women feel more comfortable talking, sharing our stories and asking and answering questions, being open. And that sort of forum is really necessary to bring women along the financial curve, to make sure that we know everything that we need to know, not only about earning and saving and spending, but most importantly about investing so that our money can grow and work as hard for us as we work for ourselves. So I started Her Money as a place to give women that forum. We began with a podcast. The Her Money podcast is now, 7 years old, 15 million downloads and counting. But we also have a Facebook group with more than 20,000 women in it. We have 2 different coaching programs, Investing Fix, which is a women's only investing club, and Finance Fix, which is meant to help people with their cash flow and budgeting challenges. We have a Finance Fix version just for pre-retirees to make sure that you've got enough money to, as you said, convert to income. And a couple of newsletters that we publish each week. And we also are really proud of the partnerships that we've been able to forge with companies like Principal to get behind important research like the Real Life Retirement Journey survey that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But first, I got to say, I appreciate that you're creating the Her Money community, because I think it is a community. And you're right on. I don't think I've yet to give a seminar myself to a female only audience, but I have noticed now that you say it. Okay, it's usually the guys that raise their hand. Actually, a lot of times it's the guys just speaking out without raising their hand. Like somehow the guys just dominate the room. So I appreciate, yeah, if you're trying to educate and empower anybody in the mixed gender world, it's helpful to be maybe focused on a female community to help and empower each other. And I appreciate that, especially when it comes to retirement, because I've often found, especially it's getting better, but I think a lot of now, if I'm talking to a 92-year-old widow, she's living on the decisions that her 62-year-old husband made 30 years ago. And guess what? He's dead. He's gone. And he made these decisions, sometimes not quite fully keeping in mind what life might look like 30 years from now when it's just the female around, because that's what happens most often that I see.
Yeah, I'm sure 30 years ago, he didn't even think she would still be around, right? We've had
Yeah.
these massive increases in longevity that have really shaken up the world of retirement and retirement planning.
Yep. Sure. Well, you mentioned the Principal Real Life Retirement Journey Survey. I've seen a few of these surveys, and I think what's been interesting, and maybe it's with the market up in 2024, you'll give me your take. But some of these surveys, Principal came in. It seems like things are looking better for retirement than we'd expect. Kind of the doomsday news, as the headline says, no one's prepared for retirement. But when you dig into it, it seems like that's maybe not the case. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was thrilled with the research and the findings, the results of this survey. I think the folks at Principal were as well, because it does tell a good news story. What we found was that middle income retirement savers are actually exceeding expectations. And when we talk about middle income households, we're talking about households that earn between $50,000 and $100,000 annually. And they are nearly 80% of them saving close to 8% of what they're earning. That doesn't include matching dollars, right? And I'm sure you've given a lot of advice through the years that really spurs people to get to the point where they're putting away more than 10%, closer to 15%. These middle income households, despite the inflationary environment that we've been living through, they're really, really close. And that makes me feel great about their progress, because once people get into the habit of saving, it's one of those habits that we feel good about, and one of those habits that has really shown to be sticky, primarily with the advent of tools like automatic enrollment and automatic escalation in 401k plans. So I feel really good about that.
Yeah, it's interesting too. A lot of people ask me, how do I compare to others? And that's sometimes good, sometimes bad. I think comparing to others in terms of your savings rate, that's something you shoot for, right? I don't need you comparing to
Yes.
others in terms of your car, but if you know that on average, right, the middle income households are shooting for 8% on average. And generally, if you're hearing someone like you on the Today's show talking about money, you're probably saying 10%. Like that's a common number, save 10% for your retirement. And here we are, almost quite there, 8% on average. And middle income is good because it's in the middle, but it's not like you're rich, right? It's not like you have crazy amounts of extra, and yet you're finding the time and ability to put in 8% towards retirement. That is a good sign.
It's a really good sign. And when you're talking about comparing, these folks are doing really well when compared with themselves and their own expectations. 40% of these middle income households now are saying they think their retirement will be better than the one that they envisioned. And 8%, I agree with you. I think we would say 8% on in and of itself, you want to get the number higher. I haven't used that 10% number in years. I use 15. I think 15 is really what's necessary on a consistent basis to,
Mm-hmm.
when coupled with Social Security, get people to the point where they can replace a decent 80% of their pre-retirement income. But a lot of people get matching dollars. If you work for a company with a retirement plan, chances are you're getting at least something in matching dollars. That is going to get you closer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they mentioned, 8%, and that's before any of the extra matching. If you're getting maybe 3, 4, 5%, you're getting really close to that 15%. It's like it's in sight. If you're at 0 and the goal is 15, it feels hopeless, but you're probably at like 8, 9, 10, 11. It's there, and it maybe just takes just a few percentage points more to get you a lot closer towards your retirement savings goals.
Yeah, and for those people who are at zero, one of my favorite research-based findings is that many of us find that we can save an additional 2% without really noticing it, without feeling a tremendous amount of pain. So if you are not where you want to be, I would suggest trying to nudge yourself up 2 percentage points at a time. If you work for a company that has a 401k or other work-based retirement plan that offers automatic escalation, the ability to increase your contributions automatically on a schedule that you set, aim for those 2% annual nudges. And if you don't, or if you're saving in an IRA or some other form, set a calendar reminder so that you do it yourself, or that you increase your retirement savings every time you get a raise.
Yeah, that's a good way to go. I think that's why Principal is maybe really interested in this, because I know they do sponsor 401k retirement plans, and I saw in their reports they were giving ideas to the sponsor, to the employer, because really I think if they're the 401k, they're talking more to the decision makers are the ones that to decide what's going on here with the 401k, and their encouragement to the decision makers, to HR, to finance was, yeah, do an automatic enrollment. Encourage your employees to start doing that, and do that automatically escalating if you can. Of, hey, if they get a 3% raise, put 1%, 2% of that, you still get a raise. It still feels like you got a little bit more. And like you said, you want to start early, start building that habits early. And of course, everything I read is generally the younger generation. They're just doing horrible things. I think that's been like since the beginning of time that you've heard this, that everyone who's older knows what they're doing. Everyone who's younger doesn't know what they're doing. But when you were looking at the research, you found something interesting too. Tell me a little bit about what Gen Z is doing and how they're maybe even doing better than the boomers. It's hard to hear.
Yeah, Gen C is basically wiping the floor with us. Let's
Okay.
just put it that way. So Gen Z is saving a lot earlier than their parents, and then earlier generations. They are starting to save for retirement on average 10 years earlier than Gen Xers and boomers. And when you talk to people about retirement, when I talk to people about retirement and I ask them about their regrets, the big regret is, I wish I started sooner. I mean, I know I did not really get into the retirement savings game myself until I was in my 30s. I blew my first opportunity with a 401k. But these Gen Zers have really gotten religion, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
They understand that they've got an opportunity that is presenting itself. They get into the plans. Um, they start really kicking up those contributions. They're helped along by the behavioral finance innovations, the automatic escalation and automatic enrollment that didn't exist when I started saving, and maybe when you started saving. And they're doing really well. We know that fewer than 35% of Xers and boomers, so people my age, feel like they're doing better than their kids. So we realize it as well. 50% of Gen Z, 50% of millennials feel like they're doing better than their parents, and they're right.
Yeah, and maybe it's a little bit of the encouragement from the boomers. Maybe it's a little bit of seeing mom and dad expressing regret, and then the Gen Zs learning from things. Speaking of from learning, especially in your community, and you've got a bit of a focus toward retirement. You're talking to people about retirement planning. When you're in the Facebook groups, when you're hearing from your readers and listeners, what are the big questions they're asking you about retirement?
Oh boy, a huge one is, do I have enough? Right? How do I know that I'm on track for retirement? How do I know that I have put away enough, or I am putting away enough on a consistent basis, so that my money will last as long as I do. That fear of running out of money in retirement is boy, it has really dug itself into us, particularly into women who know that they're going to potentially live a very long time. So making sure that we're on track is a very big one.
Yeah, sure. And of course, it's a big switch. Like it's easy, I think, to save for retirement, right? You just put a percentage on your 401k, and then you hopefully, things go well. But then when you start taking money out, there's I've seen, and I'm asking you what you see, but I've seen a lot of maybe fear in terms of how do I do this? Like I spent 35 years learning how to save for retirement, and all of a sudden, boom, real quick, in less than 35 days, I have to turn around and start taking money out from retirement. So it's kind of fear around the process. And then there's fear of, wait a second, I'm a saver. I always put money in. Isn't taking money out losing? Like, tell me a bit about that. What are you seeing when you're talking to these tens of thousands of people out there?
Yeah, I mean you're absolutely right. It took us a while, I think, to get with the program when it came to saving for retirement. It took us a little while to catch up with the fact that we were no longer going to have pensions in most cases. But you're right, we got with the program, we signed on, we contribute automatically, we use target date funds, we rebalance, we're in there, we know what we're doing. And then the day comes when you are no longer earning, and it's like a switch flips, and you are supposed to essentially reverse engineer the entire thing, and nobody has
Mm-hmm.
taught you how. There are financial products that can be used, but people are fearful. They're fearful in part because assets and income are very very different. And for decades now, you've heard people talking about not spending their principal. There's this of uh, fear of spending too much too quickly and outliving what you've got in your retirement plans. There's also this sense that the 4% rule, which was a pretty good rule of thumb for a very, very long time, this idea that if you withdraw 4% of your balance that first year in retirement and then inflation adjust the number and withdraw the same throughout retirement, your money would last you 30 years. Well, the guy who came up with this rule has said it just doesn't work anymore. And so we need other ways, other tools to get us through the process.
Yeah, and those other tools, interesting. There's part of me that wishes wasn't this way, but I'll describe the way it is. Where generally speaker, if you are a financial advisor like myself, you're often working with clients that have $500,000 or more, which seems unfortunate that, okay, all the rich are getting the best advice. But then I dig into it further sometimes where I've got a YouTube channel. It's the Mr. Retirement YouTube channel. And I did a few different kind of case studies. Like, what if you have 250,000 in retirement? What if you have maybe 500,000 in retirement? And what I saw is the two biggest things you could do, if that's you, if you have less than $500,000 in retirement, two biggest things you can do to help your retirement are number one, wait on Social Security.
Yes.
And number two is to wait on retiring, is to keep on working a little bit longer. And then I looked at some advanced like tax planning investment techniques. It almost didn't like apply, like it didn't really move the needle at all. But it's these decisions to wait on retirement, wait on Social Security seem to help out a ton for those folks.
Look, I think waiting on Social Security is the smartest financial decision that a lot of people will make in their entire lives, right? We know that for every year you wait to take Social Security, in most cases, from age 62 to age 70, you're going to get a bump in benefits of about 8%. That's a very, very tough guaranteed return to beat another way. So I think we look at that, but I also think you have to look at income solutions, and this idea of turning some portion of your retirement nest egg into a stream of income that will last as long as you do. Two noted researchers wrote a paper called License to Spend, David Blanchett and Michael Finca. And they looked at people who had $500,000 in retirement assets and looked at compared those people whose $500,000 was in the form of income, i.e., in a pension, a sort of a teacher's pension or a government pension, against those people who had the money in a retirement savings account. And what they found was that the people who had it in pension income were spending twice as much because they knew that the money was going to continue to come month after month after month. When we look at people who've been in retirement for a very long time, 20 years, 25 years, what we're often seeing is that they're underspending. They are spending a small portion of their assets because that fear that they're going to outlive their money is so pervasive. And to me, that is incredibly sad because it means that they're not experiencing the quality of life that they could be experiencing in retirement, the quality of life that they've saved for all of those years. So I think, yes, we need growth in the market. Yes, you need that throughout your lifetime, but you also need some income solutions to help you get there.
Yeah, I like how you termed it income solutions because there's a lot of different ones out there, and maybe look into the idea of an income solution and find the one that works for you. I'm going to link to a podcast I did with David Blanchett talking about his license to spend research. Thanks for mentioning that because I found that too. Just talking to my clients is if you get a monthly payout into your checking account, even if it's just automatic from your savings into your checking account, it feels really good. But if you have to go in and move money from left to right, it feels like you're losing. And so
Yeah.
having this income solution, whatever it is, really does help you out in retirement. And I've also found too, in the beginning part of retirement, it's a help to kind of ease yourself in that it seems like when you are working even part-time, you feel more confident. Like, let me take this 10 grand I earned from my part-time job and go do the vacation that I want to do. And you don't feel comfortable taking the 10 grand out of your investments, although it probably would be fine. I think they found something in this idea of the phased retirement, kind of maybe part-time, or tell me a little bit about that. I know there was some research
Yeah,
findings in there.
absolutely. So Principles Real Life Retirement Journeys has looked into that as well. And this notion of a phased retirement, a retirement where on the day after you stop working, you don't have to think about, okay, what am I going to do with my time? Because you've got something on the calendar, works for a lot of people, both emotionally and financially. And we know that people not only are working in retirement because they feel like they want to continue to earn the money, but because working provides us, many of us anyway, with a lot of satisfaction. It keeps us happy, keeps us healthy, keeps us engaged. And as a way to sort of slow your roll a bit until you get to that social security at 70, it can be really, really effective.
Yeah, it's a big help financially, and you're right on. It's a big help kind of psychologically of getting yourself through. I've got exactly an example of that. Somebody I was encouraging to wait on Social Security. I think it's a great idea financially for them. It just really makes sense for them. They were not really into it, no matter what the math in the chart said. And then they got offered a part-time job making like 30, 40,000 a year. Guess what? Their Social Security was like 30, 40,000 a year. And so his plan is just, well, I like what I'm doing. I'm making, 40 grand. And so I'll do that this year. And then if I stop, that's when I'll turn on Social Security. So it's interesting. It's like him taking a job, which he's enjoying and getting a lot of other benefits out of it, is what's making him feel comfortable on Social Security, waiting on Social Security for him.
Right. Plus, you have other benefits too, right? If you continue to work, maybe you can continue to put a little money into your retirement accounts. That money can continue to grow. There are fewer years that you have to rely on the distributions. So it's a good thing all around.
Yeah, you got it. Well, speaking of retirement, something I like to ask my guests, I'm curious if you're willing to share a bit. How do you envision your own retirement? What would you be doing in your own retirement?
I got to tell you, I just hit 60 and it is a concept that I'm really struggling with
Mm-hmm.
because I like what I do. I feel like I feel useful And so I don't have any intention of giving that up anytime soon. But I think I will be a phased retirement kind of person. I think I will just slowly over time do a little less of the things that I like to do without stopping completely.
Yeah, that's exactly. Find the things that you really like to do, focus on that, and kick out the things you don't necessarily like to do as much. I think that's a good way to go. I used to tell my wife, I'll never stop working because I just love what I'm doing. And then I've realized through podcasting, meeting guests, and talking to a lot of my clients is, why am I putting this burden on my 60, 65-year-old, 75-year-old self? Like, he'll do what he wants to do. But I think I've
Yes.
learned enough that you get to a point, and sometimes you want to keep working. Sometimes you want to work less, and sometimes you just want to stop working. And it's good to be prepared for any of those scenarios.
I heard it put really well this morning. The time to stop is when you have enough or when you've had enough.
There you go. That's a good way to do it. I like it. Good. Well, I've got one more question for you, Jean. Before that, tell us what's the best way to reach out to you.
You can get me at Jean Chatzky on all the socials, and you can get my newsletter at hermoney.com.
You got it. And we'll put links to all that, and I'll put links to the research study if somebody's
Great.
looking to get more info on the details. And we got some detail oriented. A lot of engineers listen to our podcast, so
Would
there
love
might be
that.
some details on there. Excellent. Well, final question for you, Jean. Tell us something about yourself that few people know about. And remember, this podcast is rated clean.
I just ran the New York Marathon.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. How did that go?
The first half was excellent, and the
Yes.
second half was not as good as the first.
That's all right, but you finished.
But I finished, so
Yeah, that's
all
an
good.
accomplishment. Oh, that's great. Good for you. Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, sharing us a little bit more about what retirement looks like and even the journey towards retirement. Thanks for your insights, Jean.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to the Retirement Reveal podcast. We believe if you know more about your money, you will feel better about your money and you will make better money decisions. Hi, I'm Jeremy Keil with the Keil Financial Partners. If you'd like to see how we help our clients get more income, pay less in taxes, and avoid big retirement mistakes, head on over to keilfp.com. That's KEILFP.com.